Verses 1 through 6. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load. Nevertheless, the one who receives instruction in the word should share all good things with their instructor. Now you'll notice he starts out here and he says brothers and sisters. Literally, it's just brothers, okay? But the modern translations don't want to sound misogynistic, so they always include brothers and sisters. And it doesn't really change the intent or the truth here because he's writing this to the whole church. He's writing this to both female and male Christ followers. He's talking to the church here. And he says here that if someone is caught in a sin, and just as we said, that can happen. That can happen. So this isn't saying that if someone trips once, that we have to run up to them, stick our finger in their face and say, oh, I saw what you did, I saw what you did. But this is talking about somebody who is caught in sin, somebody who is entrapped in a sin. The sin has gotten the upper hand in their life, and they can't break free from it without help. Now, give me some examples of the kinds of sin that you think Paul might be referring to. I think as we think of this, we need to go back to what we had said last week when we looked at the acts of the flesh. Because we look at those, and I think Rusty and I had a conversation about this. We look at some of those and we think, oh, some of those are horrific. And then we read some of the others and, oh, it's not that big a deal, is it? Right? I mean, okay. So, I might be jealous of somebody. That's not that big a deal, is it? Well, yeah. He lists it here. Okay, so it can be the things that a person gets entrapped in that are horrific. Or it can be the sins that people get entrapped in that a lot of times in the church we just kind of wave off and wink at. Anybody in the church who gossips? Yeah, no, I'm not asking you to name names, but write it on a piece of paper and give it to me, okay? No. Right? Anybody in the church who envies somebody else in the church? Anybody in the church who maybe causes discord? Anybody in the church who has some selfish ambition? They're trying to get ahead? Me. Yeah, that is as much something that that person is entrapped in that we have a responsibility to deal with as anything else. So, Paul says those who live by the Spirit have a responsibility toward the person who is entrapped in this. Who are those who are living by the Spirit? So, anybody in the congregation who, as they look at their own life, they say, you know what? I see Jesus transforming me. I know that I have become a more loving person, that I have become more kind, I have become more gentle, I have become more self-controlled. And you go through that whole list. That is the person who is living by the Spirit. And that is the person who needs to go and deal with these things. They might be a leader in the church, they might be a new member in the church. That's not the issue. Okay? The issue is, are they actively living in the Spirit? And they are to go and restore this person. And that word used for restore, it's a word that's used in the Gospels of the fishermen repairing their nets. It refers to the ongoing process of mending or knitting back together. The idea is to take something that is broken and help put it back in working order. And now Paul explains why this must be done by those who are living in the Spirit. He says that the process of restoring someone must be done with gentleness. And who are those who have gentleness? Those who are living in the Spirit, because it's listed as a fruit of the Spirit, right? It needs to be done by those living in the Spirit because they have healthy humility. They have an honest evaluation of their own weakness, an honest evaluation of the strength of the pull of sin, an honest evaluation of how diabolical Satan is. And so the warning here is watch yourselves. If you go and try and restore someone, mend someone, put them back into working order or help put them back into working order, you better watch yourself. Because if you're one of those people who is conceited and envious, it's not going to go well for the person you're trying to restore, and you are on thin ice. So those not keeping in step with the Spirit would possibly go into it thinking this is a competition. They'll either feel superior to the person who needs help, or they'll feel inferior. Now, what do you think would happen if someone who felt superior tried to restore someone entangled in sin? Now, what do you think would happen if somebody who felt like a loser in comparison tried to restore someone? Now, I'm not trying in any way to dissuade you from taking on this responsibility in the church family. It's right there, okay? If you are walking with the Spirit, you have this responsibility we have this responsibility to one another. So we have this responsibility. If you are in Christ, if you are secure in God's grace, and you're doing the gardening work of growing in the fruit of the Spirit, this is part of being a church member. But examine yourself first, and really examine your motives. Because if you try to restore someone and you are acting out of conceit or envy, you might do more damage than help.